Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have an all-new review and try-on of the new Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Unlocked Horse Palette. Now I am so excited for this. This is always one of the releases that I get the most excited for. I also feel like this sort of signals the kickoff of the holiday makeup launch season, which I absolutely live for. I love it so much. But this is the Horse Palette. This one is a Sephora exclusive. This is available, I believe, for 24 hours early access on September 2nd, and then it will be officially available later in the month on Sephora. As of the time I'm filming this, the other three palettes are also available on the Hourglass website now for early access. They're officially launching on September 6th, but they're available for early access now. So I will leave the link down below in the description if you are looking to shop those as well. This actual horse packaging is also available on the Hourglass website, but not with this color story. It is available as a customizable option that you can pick one of the other color stories and add into. A bit different than they've done in previous years, but I will say the customizable option is actually available for everyone and not just US customers. So that is a big improvement. So this morning I did order the deer palette because that is the one I'm most excited for, but I was also very excited to get my hands on this horse palette. Sephora Canada did accidentally launch it a little bit early last week for a few hours. I happened to catch it and ordered the palette. So here it is, nice and early. I love the design and packaging on this one. It is super beautiful. This is made in Italy and has a 12-month shelf life. They have created with a Ukrainian artist to create the packaging of this year's palettes, which I love. They have been doing these more animal-themed palettes the last few years, and I do really, really love it. So here is the inner packaging. It is their usual tin packaging with, of course, this beautiful horse design. And here are the 6 shades in this palette. Now, these palettes actually were leaked back in June or July, and I did do a full in-depth review of all of the palettes, the colors that are in each one, and where each of those shades can be found. So I will leave that video linked down below in case you missed it, in case you want to check it out in advance of picking your palettes online. I will leave all of those details down below, but I will go through with you the horse palette today as well. So this is the only palette that does not have any new shades. The other 3 have a mix of pre-existing and new shades. The one thing we didn't know at the time that these palettes were leaked is that this one is a Sephora exclusive. At that time, we weren't even sure if the Swan was one of the options. So I just wanted to mention that, but let's take a quick look at the swatches. I'll let you know where these shades come from, and then we can get to trying this on the face. So I am just referencing my notes because I have several pages of notes for my Hourglass palettes, but the first shade is one of their finishing powders in Soft Light. This one was in the Elephant palette, the Evil Eye palette, and the Sculpture Mini. Next is Mood Exposure, and this is easily one of their most popular blush shades. This is a permanent shade and available in a single. This was also in the Sculpture 2020 palette and the Leopard palette from 2023. Supernatural Strobe Light is in the Universe palette from 2021. Iridescent Coral was in the Elephant palette. Iridescent Rose was in the Leopard palette in 2023 and the Tiger palette in 2022. And Glistening Bronze Light was in the 2021 Universe palette. Alright, so the hair is pinned back. Let me zoom you in and we can get to putting this on the face. Alright, so all zoomed in nice and close. Hair is pinned back. Let's get into this palette. Now, I don't think all of these shades are going to work for me. I do think this highlighter is going to be a little bit too deep. I might skip trying out Mood Exposure today just because I already know I like that shade. I already have that one. These 2 are brand new to me. I will, of course, try the finishing powder and the bronzer. So I think starting with the bronzer and Glistening Bronze Light, this one actually does look pretty. I couldn't really tell when I was swatching it out. I was kind of a little bit on the fence because on one hand I thought it looked a little warm at first, and then I got thinking it actually looks like it has that bit of that reddish undertone that I actually love in my bronzers. So we're just gonna see together. So picking that up on my brush. I know Hourglass does seem to have a bit of a habit of throwing in very warm bronzers, but in last year's Dragon palette, they actually gave us the most beautiful neutral toned bronzer. I absolutely loved it. I think I like this one. I think it does have that more reddish undertone to it. So I absolutely loved the bronzer in last year's Dragon palette. And then this year in the Deer palette, I see that we have Diffused Bronze Light, which I think I have been told is one of their more neutral bronzers and one of the best that they have for fair skin. So I am so excited to try that out. I know there are some with a fair skin tone who do like those more warm bronzers, but that's just not me. For me, I just turn orange way too easily. All right, so I think this bronzer looks really, really nice. I don't feel like it's too orange at all, actually. I do feel like it has that nice sort of rosier undertone. It just looks quite nice. You can definitely build it up, which is nice if you have a deeper skin tone than I do, but I love how I was able to go in nice and light. I did, of course, build it up a little bit more than I typically would, but this looks really, really nice. I like this bronzer a lot. All right, let's go into Iridescent Rose. I'm just gonna go in with this one on one side. I do love the Hourglass powders because it is kind of hard to mess up with them. They're just so finely milled and so pretty. They look so flawless on the skin. That's a really, really pretty blush. Just adding a little bit more color so you can see it better, but that is a beautiful, beautiful shade. So that is Iridescent Rose. Really, really pretty. I like that shade quite a bit. Okay, switching brushes. I'm gonna go in to Iridescent Coral. It's that shade over here. I've noticed this year's palettes seem to be a little bit more blush heavy, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. I would rather have an extra blush than an extra finishing powder. Say I just don't need 2 finishing powders in every palette, personally. Okay, so Iridescent Coral, very pretty, but it does have sort of a gold shimmer shift to it. So very, very much reminding me of NARS Orgasm. I'm getting that sort of pinky coral, but there is that gold to it right here. Can you see that shift? When I swatched out Iridescent Rose and Iridescent Coral, I was kind of thinking they look a little bit similar, but Iridescent Rose really isn't as glowy as I thought it was going to be. It's just a really, really pretty rosy blush. It's very soft, very pretty. Iridescent Coral is a bit more pigmented and it does have a very, very obvious gold shimmer to it. I don't feel like I need highlighter with this blush at all because it's definitely there. So just keep that in mind. And then Mood Exposure is a matte blush. There is no shimmer to Mood Exposure at all. Okay, I don't think this highlight is going to work for me, but going into Supernatural Strobe Light. So starting on this side, because Iridescent Rose didn't have any shimmer to it, putting it on top of the cheekbone. Oh, that's actually pretty. Okay. That's actually quite pretty. That's not too deep at all. I thought for sure it was going to give me quite a bit of a cast. I don't think I see a cast. It's kind of just a champagne glow, and if I go in with a light hand, it does give me kind of a nice little highlight. I think if I were to build it up, it would be too deep, but no, that's definitely a very pretty highlight on its own. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, maybe adding a little bit over here. It kind of blends right into that gold highlight that I was getting from the blush initially, but no, the shade is actually quite pretty. I don't find that too intense at all. That is a nice shade that you could also build on top of the bronzer if you wanted. Very, very pretty. These shades can, of course, be used on the eyes too. The finishing powder, we only get one in this palette, and that is Soft Light. And I think this might be a nice one. When I swatched this out, it pretty much blended in with my skin tone, so I'm kind of hoping that's what it's really going to do here. So just sort of dusting this all over to kind of melt everything together. Okay, so I will say that this is a nice shade. I will definitely be able to use it, but I think it did kind of take away some of the brightness right here when I went in a little bit heavy. I think it is a pinch too deep for me as a finishing powder, but if I go in with a light hand, it will definitely work. I would just kind of keep it away from the areas that I want brightened in particular. But I do think it works, and I do think it still did its job to sort of pull together everything else I have going on the face. It's a pretty shade. My absolute favorite finishing powder shade that Hourglass has is Dreamlight, which was launched for the first time last year in the Dragon palette and the Dream Edit. That is almost like a white powder. That one's beautiful. This one will definitely work for me. I do think it's quite pretty, but it's definitely not going to give me any sort of brightness, but it does look nice. All right, let me take the hair down. I'll zoom you out and we can get into my final thoughts with this horse palette. All right, so even though I've got two different blush shades on, I think the makeup looks so flawless like it always does when I use an Hourglass palette. But let's talk about this one in particular. I love this packaging. I think it's so beautiful. I do think that if you have a lot of Hourglass in your collection, definitely go through your collection and see if you have a lot of these shades already. Because keep in mind, none of these shades are new. So if you're a collector of these palettes, you may very well have this palette already. And of course, with the price increase of these, I would definitely keep that in mind. However, I personally only have Mood Exposure, and I love that shade, so I'm not upset to have it in more than one palette, but I didn't have any of the rest of these shades, and they're actually all very, very usable for me, which I'm very happy about. When I initially look at this color story, it looks like it's very much geared toward more medium skin tones, but this works beautifully for my skin. I know if I were to build these up, I would get a little too much pigment, but I love that I can keep them a little bit more on the sheer side and make them work just fine for me. I think these colors are great. I love this bronzer. It's surprisingly not too warm. When I initially swatched it out, I wasn't sure, and I did swatch it next to Lunar Bronze and Natural Bronze, and I was just trying to figure it out, and swatched all together, the bronzers all looked very, very similar. But once I put it on the face, I think my suspicion was correct. This has sort of a more reddish, rosy kind of undertone to it, which for me is amazing because as a cooler undertone, it just ends up looking so much more natural and not too intense. I think this is a great bronzer shade for me. I think it's really, really pretty. And I just hate when bronzers pull orange because they turn me orange so fast. But in this case, I just felt like it gave me such a pretty wash of color, and this is one of those bronzers that I can see using as a bronzer moment. It's perfect for that. Now, Soft Light, the finishing powder in here, is a really good skin tone match for me. I think it's too deep if I want to do any brightening on my face, so I would maybe keep it away from the center of my face a little bit or just go in very, very lightly there. But it is very, very close to my skin tone, so it does do a nice job still of dusting all over the face, melting everything together, and making everything just look polished and finished. So I do like that. This highlighter, I was pleasantly surprised that it did manage to work for me. I still don't think it gives me any sort of a cast. My absolute favorite Hourglass highlighter is easily the one in the Jellyfish palette, Opal Strobe Light. That shade is the best highlighter they've ever come out with for my personal skin tone. I love it so much, but I actually really do like this one as well. Initially, I was definitely very concerned. I thought, I'm not going to be able to use that shade. It's way too deep, but I was able to go in with a pretty light hand. I still got a pretty bold highlight, but it works for me still. So I do think that's really pretty. The blush. We know I love Mood Exposure. It's a fantastic mauvey toned blush. I love it especially in the winter because it kind of gives that sort of in from the cold kind of look. I think it's gorgeous. These two shades here I think are brilliant for all year, of course, but I do think they're brilliant summer shades. Iridescent Rose I think is gorgeous. I thought it was going to be a bit glowy. I think it might have a bit of a glow to it, but not much. It's just a really beautiful rosy blush. Iridescent Coral kind of surprised me. I do see, looking at it, I do see that sort of gold sparkle to it, but I wasn't expecting the effect that I got with that actual very obvious gold shift. So if you don't like that, just keep that in mind. It very much reminded me of NARS Orgasm, but a very toned down version of that. So I'll pop up the swatches. I did swatch them side by side. They have that very similar pinky coral with the gold shift, but of course iridescent coral is softer because it is in that Hourglass powder formula. And as a very, very quick comparison, I will just show you what this looks like next to the Jellyfish palette from 2 years ago. So the Jellyfish is definitely a lot brighter. This Jellyfish was definitely intended for fair skin tones. The horse was, of course, meant to cover a little bit more light to medium skin tone, so a bit of a wider range there. And then the Dragon palette from last year. The colors in this palette, again, I do think you can tell from the Dragon palette it was meant for more fair skin tones, but there are some similarities here with the mauve blush, the sort of brighter coral, that golden highlight, the finishing powder that's very close to my skin tone. But this palette also has Dreamlight in it, and this is the one I was mentioning is very, very brightening. It's almost like a white and it's beautiful. So the horse is definitely deeper than either of these two, and it will of course be deeper than the Deer palette, and I will show you what they look like side by side when I have the Deer palette in. But overall, I really, really love this Sephora exclusive color story. In the horse palette packaging, I knew I wanted this packaging in general. I knew from the outset I wanted the horse and I wanted the deer. I knew that right away. And I don't even mind that these are not new shades because I didn't have a lot of them to begin with. So for me personally, this is a win, but I will of course let you decide if it's a win for you. If you're a collector, if you already have a ton of their palettes, you may very well have a lot of these already. So just keep that in mind, but it is overall a win for me. And I will of course post my review with the Deer palette as soon as I have that in as well and show you some of those comparisons. I'm really, really excited for that one. But let me know all of your thoughts down below. Are you excited about this horse palette? Are you excited about the ones that are on their website? Which one are you getting? Are you getting any at all? Just let me know all of your thoughts down below. I love hearing from you guys so, so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.